Vintage time. I guess I can leave up the deck list. Still need to figure out if Thirst is reasonable. Trying out 2 repeals today. We see a really huge downtick in shops. It's probably worthwhile to go back to 2 islands and maybe play 3 UCs or something. Don't actually know how good 1 Remora, 1 Misstep is. Don't actually know if Will is worthwhile still. We're gonna have to figure that out as well. If we really don't care as much about shops, we can play a 2 Tundra variant, and then we get to play white cards on the board like Kumbal. Maybe that's more worthwhile. A lot of stuff to think about. I haven't been playing too much Vintage. Just played in Grand Prix Montreal this weekend, which was limited. It was a pretty good time. And then a couple weekends from now, we have Grand Prix New Jersey, which is new standard, which we're probably going to do some practice for tonight. And of course, Eternal Weekend in November. So lots of Magic still to be played. Lots of practicing to do along with other things, so let's see. 2 minutes. I really don't know if there are like other cards like this, this. So like there's a reasonable amount of flex. Like technically you don't even need to have this. Pretty good amount of flex going on. I am a little sucks because there's really no way I'm not playing a PO list. But I think that the human lists with like main deck Camballs and JVPs are pretty interesting. I think Camball is just so strong against the current metagame that like it could be worthwhile to have a deck with him in the main. But I mean you're not gonna play him in the main deck of your PO deck, so but if I really think he's that strong, then we should be playing some kind of Euro PO build without this probably, and this is an old build, so we'd have to switch around the cards, but it's possible that that's where we want to be at. But just because there's been a downtick of shops online doesn't mean that what? I didn't even hear it go off. Because there's been a downtick of shops online doesn't mean there's a downtick of shops for champs. I don't really know why there's been a downtick of shops online. I think it's the second best deck. I think it beats most of these decks that are seeing large upticks. We'll have to see. We got an opponent though, so. We're playing Ryan. This is round 1 of a Vintage League. Playing with Paradoxical Outcome. Our hand is pretty bad. It's already a 6. It's already a 6 because we have this Blightsteel. Like, we do have our Thirst, which lets us put the Blightsteel away, but our hand's not remotely explosive or resilient, and especially if we think that he's probably going to be on a PO deck as well, which is a very, very bad hand for the mirror. The mirror is very much about comboing off first. This hand on the other hand is a little bit better. Remora is a pretty strong card in the mirror. Thirst is not. So we're gonna go with this. We're really looking to Find some more fast mana. Being on the draw is a little unfortunate. We could hold him off for a little bit with Remora. I do want to see what he did with that. He put one on top, so it was at least one card in his top two that he wanted. That's a pretty close to one of the worst draws in our deck. We'll go ahead and lead with Remora, and we'll play a Pearl out so that we could use the Pearl to pay for it on upkeep and still be able to ponder. He cracks here. I'm not sure what that means. Tropical's interesting. Sylvan Library. That's a pretty good response to a Remora. We drew a force off of our Remora. Yeah, we're definitely gonna cash that in. We'll cash that in for APO. That's gonna really stifle his ability to put more cards in his hand, which should put us in a really strong spot. We have a couple turns of Remora. That's a really good, really strong draw. One of our best. So are those. I guess we'll keep these ones. There's really no reason to play. I don't really think we're gonna play around Trap. I'd rather him have one less card drawn and not have the ability to Flusterstorm. Alright, we're looking pretty strong here. We'll have to see if we want to pick up our Remora or not. I don't really think we need to let the Remora go just yet, so I'm pretty okay with keeping it in play one more turn. We still have a play to be made. Not too bad either. I think I'm gonna cycle this repeal right now. I would really have liked to hit a land drop there. Unfortunately, there is no land drop to be made. I don't see us spinning a top no matter what next turn. If anything, we pay for our Remora. If not, maybe we play Time Walk or a Mentor. Top doesn't actually think it doesn't look like top's going to be activated, and it's a little bit more threatening to put a key out with a Demonic Tutor in our hand already. So I think we'll play key, and it's pretty likely we'll let our Remora go next turn. It's a little unfortunate. A lot of times I like when this Remora gets ticked up a lot, I like to PO with the trigger on the stack. We didn't hit any extra mana sources, so we can't do that. We still don't exactly know what he's playing. Could be just some kind of bug deck. You do have to be a little careful of things like a Leovold. The creature will not... Oh, he's going to play his own Remora. A little annoying, for sure. Maybe we'll draw our one of Misstep. We didn't draw a Misstep, so that means he gets his own Remora, which he can pay for a while. So he'll probably try to get himself onto Library while we wait. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop our Remora and play a Monastery Mentor. He probably has a Force of Will at this point. Doesn't have Force of Will. So we have to think about how many cards we want to give him off his Remora. Let's assume he has an Abrupt Decay in hand. He gets to pay Library to pay for Remora and gets to Abrupt Decay our mentor. We would at least like to have one monk after. So do we want to give him a card for a monk and an opal? Is the big question. I think that's worthwhile. After this, I don't think any more cards are going to be worth it. What this does let us do is pay for another Moxen if we draw it, which is a nice place to be. I don't believe I'm going to play top and give him another draw. So he doesn't get to go on Library this turn, but he will get to go on Library the turn after. We should be able to present him with enough of a clock with our mentor. It's going to be a little tricky here. Oh, he chooses to pay with Tropical Island instead of Library. I wonder if that means he has a draw spell in hand. It would have to be something like land Night's Whisper? No, that's still only up to 6. I'm not sure what kind of draw spell will get him the Library this turn. That's a little odd to me. Sure. So it's likely we'll play no non-creature spells next turn. He's looking pretty hard, probably for lands. I guess any Moxen really does it as well. He kept one on top again. So he plays his land out, which puts him farther away from Library. But he gets to resolve another cantrip. See, if I was him, I would try to get. It's a little hard because he wants to be both on Remora and on Library, but those two don't really work so well together. Or getting to both those plans is a little counterproductive. But next turn he won't be on Library unless I give him it. So it looks like he's going to just stay away from that in general. So he is playing a PO deck, it looks like. I don't think there'd be any reason for him to play Ruby Soul Ring unless he was. He now can keep this Remora up for the rest of the game, so we're going to have to try to start forcing some powerful spells through, which is not where we want to be, but we do have a mentor already in play. So we have a couple of different options. The one I kind of like the most here is leading with. He has no Flusterstorm mana, so it's just really Forcible we have to worry about. So I like casting Time Walk and casting Demonic and getting Time Vault. So that means he's going to draw 3 cards to get to Force. But that's probably fine because Time Walk Demonic is 4/7 damage. And then next turn, if Time Vault doesn't resolve, we have like Preordains or POs or something. Like we could go straight for PO right now. That puts us in a pretty bad spot if he Force of Wills it. I think Time Walking first is probably the best option. If we can resolve a Time Walk, it puts us in a pretty reasonable spot moving forward with this turn. We won't pay for this, so he has 4 cards in hand. No blue mana. We could also cast Preordain and then try to hit any land or Moxen. And that's a pretty high percentage shot. It might actually be worthwhile, because we do have a top as well. The problem with this line is it gives him an extra draw. Maybe that's not too bad. It sets us up for an easier kill next turn. The math, it looks like... The math actually looks pretty good there for Mentor. So I think I'm actually pretty okay here with casting Preordain looking for a mana source. We're going to be giving him a lot of cards, but we've already resolved the Time Walk, so I don't really care too much. Mana Crypt is perfectly reasonable. So we're going to give him a bunch of cards, but I don't think his Force of Will matter at this point because we have so many non-creature spells to trigger Mentor next turn that it's not going to actually make a difference. What we could actually get here is a Force, but that's actually not going to do it. We might actually get up to... Yeah. We're not going to get lethal here, but we are going to go all the way up to something where we don't even need to cast spells next turn to be lethal. So we ended up doing a lot of thinking there and just ended up at a situation in the game where it didn't really matter because he didn't have open mana. All he can do is counter a couple spells, but because he didn't counter Time Walk, we're just going to win the game anyway. So the lesson learned from there is cast Time Walk first was definitely the correct play. Anything after that, I'm not sure it really makes a difference very much. So a little overthinking it. But that's not the big deal. So it looks like he's playing some kind of PO deck. You don't really play Sol Ring Ruby with bug colored mana unless you are. So maybe he's taking a look at like my green PO list, which was Dax in the Sylvan Library, or maybe he's playing like Leovolds in a Sylvan Library. It could be any kind of mixture of things. I don't typically like to board in Karn versus other PO decks. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think you want to bring it in. I think a Trap seems reasonable. I think a Remora seems reasonable, and a Flusterstorm seems reasonable. I don't really see a need to have Hurkyl's Recall. I typically don't like to have Tinker Colossus in. I know a lot of people do. But not too big a deal. We don't see a real reason to play Needle yet. With the Tropical Island, it's unlikely he's playing any Handball, so I don't see a reason to play Karakas. Repeal is okay versus him, it's not amazing. I could say maybe going down a repeal for a Karn. Or for a Hurkyl's if he like keeps in Tinker Blightsteel for some reason. Let's I might test a Karn here. I think this is kind of a reasonable spot to test a Karn. Oh my god, so many text messages. Okay, so this hand is a little interesting. If it turns out he's not really a PO deck and no rods, that's we're in pretty bad shape. But I think man, if our Opal got Mindbreak Trap, we'd be in a pretty rough spot. And if our Sol Ring got misstepped, we just couldn't play Magic. So I think we have to mulligan it just because he's shown the capability of being a reasonable misstep deck. I don't think if he didn't have missteps, I think this hand's pretty good, actually. But because we've seen him look like a misstep deck, I think we need to put this away. This hand's pretty bad, but we're definitely not mulliganing down more. I don't really want this to be on top, but I think it's fine. Yikes. I'm just playing Opal now so that I have easier lines around trap later. I don't believe he'll deck me. I think it's a little too aggressive to Flusterstorm a Ponder here. But I don't think it's unreasonable. I've definitely done similar things. The problem is the spells in our hand are very important because we don't currently. They're very important and they have to counter things that are actually putting us in risk of dying because we are just so incredibly far behind with the cards that are currently in our hand. What we're really looking for are a series of... That's like not even the worst thing that could happen because we just are not casting spells anyways. We're looking for we're looking for a series of draws that are advance our mana and PO capabilities. Now it's going to be hard to advance our PO capabilities because we don't want to play it into Remora. But him being on a Remora right now is not even bad for us because we drew that land and we can just keep playing lands and letting him spend mana, and whereas we're not spending mana. So I have no problem with letting this Remora do its course, run its course. That's a really good draw as well. Like, I think our hand's actually much better than it was before now because we have all of its mana. So he needs to draw a land or a Mox in here to keep his Remora alive next turn. He did not. We're just gonna let one more turn go. We basically have to the game restarted at seven cards ish each and 4 mana to play. This is interesting. So I think our hand's set up pretty well to beat a lot of 7-card hands that this deck could have, but we'll have to see. His Time Walk doesn't matter, so there's no reason to counter it. He's not doing anything incredible. He's really kicking himself that he didn't draw any lands during his Remora steps. Yogg will for land Remora. That's really bad for us. So this one is definitely going to get Flusterstormed. It's a pretty high value Flusterstorm as well. So now we get the opportunity to start using our cantrips and probably our Time Walk, which puts us in a really nice space. Let's lead with a Ponder, and we have the ability to crack away things we don't want. Remora is interesting. Soul Ring is definitely something we're looking forward to. Academy is okay. I would love to have a Remora active for a little while, so I'm all about that. So let's actually just grab this Remora. I don't really want to fetch away that Soul Ring quite about yet. Wait, I can't English tonight. Quite yet. English is hard. I expect this to meet some kind of counter magic. It meets a full Force of Will. I don't really think I'm going to... How do I feel about fighting over this? Maybe I don't need a Soul Ring on top, and I can just... I kind of like a Soul Ring because it'll let me hardcast Force. I don't think there's a reason to fight over this. It's good, but I don't think it's that good. I'd like to start getting towards hardcast Forces. That'd be nice. See, like, this one seems a lot more likely that I'll force it. I think I'm going to let the Preordain go. It's possible that the Time Walk is a better, but it's close. I'm actually gonna let the Time Walk go. I think the Time Walk is worse than the Preordain right now. So like he could fluster here and we'll lose our Soul Ring on top. He's gonna play a second Force with Pio. So 1, 2, 3. So now if he has a fluster, it's gonna wreck me. Fluster here wrecks me. Fluster here is pretty insane. But if it resolves, it's 4 cards. So I think it's probably worth it. If this force does not resolve, we definitely have to crack away our Soul Ring and look for a Yogg-Will or something. Even a Yogg-Will's not very good right now. Hey, what's up, Caw? Caw? He just had a so he's now cast 3 Force of Wills, all pitching Paradoxical Outcome. This one resolves. This one resolves. Welcome to the stream. I appreciate you hanging out. So he only has 1 PO in his deck, but he currently is in a much better state than we are with 4 draws off of a Sylvan Library. We draw Snapcaster Ponder, which is pretty reasonable. Pretty strong top deck, I would say. I think it's much better than playing holding up Snap Fluster. We need to start producing a board that actually is threatening him because he has a Sylvan Library. These cards, none of these cards are like it'd be great if one of these cards was good because then we could fetch away the other 2. But none of these cards are going to help us here. We do want an Emerald, but we don't want an Emerald like right now. We need an Emerald off of something like a Thirst for Knowledge. Something good. So I think I'm just gonna throw these ones back. We drew a Sapphire. Merit to holding the Sapphire versus playing the Sapphire. Holding it represents maybe Flusterstorm, so I think I'll hold. Could also be representing a misstep or something. So now we have the hard problem of we have to fight through an active library. The good thing is we did draw one of our 2 creatures that can pressure him via life total. So his library gets a little dicier when if he's paying 8 life, which we should be pretty thankful for. I think topping Snapcaster Mage was quite high on the list of things that we wanted. Quite high. So this was a very, very odd game. Very, very tricky. I don't think I would have played the sequences we did differently. It just happened to be that he had 3 Force of Wills in hand. So he kept 1 card extra, left 1 on top, and was able to draw Snapcaster. He gets to cast Preordain here, put the card he left on top underneath his deck. Puts him in a pretty strong spot. It's going to be pretty lucky if we're able to come back here. So he went with Ponder, actually. Interesting. Maybe that means he didn't think that his card that he left on top was that bad. And maybe he wanted a chance to draw it. Or maybe he just thought that he would just shuffle away. We'll have to go see what he did. He chose not to shuffle, drew a card, has a fetch land, so he is shuffling away anyways. That probably has something to do with why he chose to choose that sequencing. So I keep having to look at this. He put 2 cards on the bottom with Preordain. So we no longer get to threaten his life total with his Sylvan Library. And we currently have nothing going for us. It's bad for us to trade our Snapcaster away, because if we draw a PO, it's very important that our Snapcaster is in play. I will play the Ruby just to have better protection against Mindbreak Trap. So this time, if we draw PO, we can play Sapphire PO, not get Mindbreak Trapped, pick up our 4 Moxen, or 3 Moxen and Snapcaster, and that would probably win us the game. So he looks like he's on I don't give a crap about shops PO, which is Splash Mentor, Splash Sylvan, Splash Yawgmoth, and Demonic, which is something that I think is pretty reasonable if you want to not care about shops. And like, such a good draw. And I think you all can see the power of Sylvan Library here, and why I think it's pretty close to being worth just the splash of 1 tropical for. It's similar to, fills a similar role to Night's Whisper, but like you have the added bonus of it being just nuts in the mirror, where they're not pressuring your life total. He kept Ancestral, but is not going to cast it. He used another activation of Library, which leaves him with 1 more Library activation. I think he's playing around Hardcast Force by waiting till my turn. I have nothing, so you have a Resolved Ancestral. We drew poorly. So it hasn't been super good for us since Snapcaster Mage was drawn. Our Ponder was bad, and our 2 other draw steps were bad, so as I said, when he resolved the Sylvan Library, we were in a really rough spot. We would have to get fairly lucky to come out from ahead in this game. So we have concluded that we are playing a PO mirror. I don't believe that changes too much of what we sideboarded. I am thinking about putting back in Titan, Tinker Blightsteel on the play. Slightly risky. He does have, we know he has a Merchant Scroll, and if he plays like me, typically in the mirror, I like to keep in the 1 Hercules to Merchant Scroll for. But he gets to have a little less flexibility by playing these 4 color decks. It's quite possible that we can sneak in a Tinker Blightsteel kill. We're waiting to die right now is what we're doing. We don't really have much say over anything. He can't attack us because he's at 6 life. We can't attack him because it actually doesn't do anything. He has 2 repeals in his main still. I think that's a little interesting. He's just cycling away. Looks like he might just go for the PO. No, just playing out his mana. We drew Thirst, which is pretty strong. We can't really play around counterspells in any meaningful way. So I have no problem just shooting this off right now and seeing if it resolves. It did resolve, and we drew some sweet ones here. Thirst looking quite strong. We are definitely pitching this Mana Vault because I think these other cards are quite good. Now we have some evaluating to do. We have some evaluating to do. I would like a PO. I would like a Force of Will. I think the lead in here is Merchant Scroll, and if that, and then Demonic. That opens us up to trap on Demonic. Maybe our lead in here is demonic into merchant scroll. That kind of seems more correct. Let's see what he has to say about demonic tutor. Demonic resolved. Demonic resolved. Demonic resolved. I think demonic picking up force and merchant scroll picking up PO puts us in the best place to take control of this game. I like picking up ancestral, but I still think I'm gonna get missteps. I think his list plays 1 or 2 missteps. Maybe it's not worth playing around misstep though. There's like some relevance to getting a monastery mentor. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think I'm going to pick up the force. And then I'm going to go get a PO. And we're going to have to try to do that on our next turn. We know he only has 1 PO in his deck, which is why we haven't died yet. The thing is, if we get to resolve a PO, we have Snapcaster Mage, so it's highly likely we get to resolve a second PO. Which is nuts. We have a repeal in our deck, so if he ever decides to go down 1 more card off his Sylvan library, we could draw into repeal, bounce a Snapcaster, and kill him. Which I think is pretty unlikely. I think that's a little too risky on his part. So he has 3 cards. He knows his top cards. The worst things for us are, we know he only has 1 force left as well. It's likely he has a trap or a fluster somewhere in his 75. What he could do here is have drawn his other PO. Ugh. So he does have a Leovold. I was so scared of this. Earlier in this match, I thought about him having a Leovold. It's so nuts here because if he has a Force of Will or Flusterstorm or I guess Mindbreak Trap backup here, he does get to resolve this Leovold, which negates our PO. We don't have a choice. We do have one choice. We're going to Force of Will this. Our choice is we could pitch this Paradoxical outcome if we think he has counter magic backup for his Leovold, but that doesn't actually help us because the Leovold also stops the Preordain. So it's better to play with it's better to pitch the Preordain and just hope that our Force of Will resolves and that our PO isn't blank. A plus side is our PO could solely bounce our Snapcaster Mage. I guess it would still bounce everything. We could still play PO and not draw multiple cards, and then be able to use our Snapcaster Mage again to Demonic Tutor. So he did have hard cast Mindbreak Trap, which is something that we did think about, and nothing we can do anything about. So we will not be able to draw cards, and if we do target him with anything, it's bad. Our saving grace here is we have Voltaic Key. Let's think about this mana. 4 mana to return Snapcaster, 1 mana to play Voltaic Key, 2 mana to play Demonic Tutor. We are 2 mana away from Vault Keying him this turn. So no, we're not, because we have to snap Demonic Tutor. But we do get to replay our things. So we're doing that. And we're going to do it now while he has less cards in hand. It doesn't hurt us to do this. We can't play around a second Mindbreak Trap in any meaningful way. I don't think I'm 1 short. I think I was 2 short. But I need to recount again. Snap, Demonic. Oh, I am 1 short. You're 100% right. I'm 1 short. I wonder if there's any other things I can do. So So we have alternatives of Monastery Mentor, Dig Through Time. Dig Through Time is an interesting one. How many cards are in our deck? 34 cards in deck. 7 deep. Our only outs would we would have to hit exactly Demonic Tolarian or Demonic, or Time Vault Tolarian, Time Vault Crypt, Time Vault. I guess Time Vault Mox, right? Time Vault Mox. No. We lose 2 mana by casting Dig Through Time, so that doesn't exactly get there. My initial line is to grab Time Vault and take it to the next turn, but I'm looking at alternatives. I think the alternatives are things like Dig Through Time and Karn. Karn's quite good as well. We have alternatives, is what I'm saying. Dig Through Time, Karn, Monastery Mentor are all reasonable alternatives here. Yawgmoth Will is pretty close as well. But because we already flashback our Demonic, it's not close enough. I think I'm still going to go with Time Vault Pass. I think Time Vault Pass is the best here. I don't know. I don't think there's any reason to play Time Vault this turn. No. I'm going to play Key this turn. I don't want him to draw a Misstep. He plays around Heartcast Force is fair. He only has 1 Force left in his deck, Ray. He probably has 1 Force, 1 Misstep, 1 Flusterstorm, or something like that. It's possible what I'm supposed to do is actually just play both out. I think that might be a mistake. I think I might actually be supposed to play both out and make him answer the cards currently in play. Yeah, I think playing both was 100% the correct choice there. And it was something I did think about, but too late. He bottomed off his Preordain. He has to have exactly a second trap or a hard cast Force to counter this, though. I think playing Key is 100% correct, because playing around a Misstep is nice. Oh, we drew a Mind Break trap. We're a very strong Magic the Gathering player here. Very, very strong wizard. Alright. We have successfully slain our round 1 opponent. I can't make it. Why can't this come up? And I wanted to talk to him, but it doesn't work. Alright. That was nice. That was a really interesting match, actually. I know, it's so sad. I swear, I rip real good against Ryan. I rip real good against a lot of regulars. I rip real good against Take Your Time. He's always playing Standstill, and I always have a real bad matchup versus him, but I rip just like unreal